Every school year begins with excitement, new energy, and big goals. But at some point, usually around November, that energy starts to fade. The long days get longer, the demands get heavier, and reality starts to set in. What many aspiring school leaders don't realize is that moment, the dip, is when real leadership begins. It's when leaders are tested, not by a title, not by a task, but by their ability to stay grounded when the excitement of leadership wears off. So in today's episode, I want to talk to you about the leadership dip, that moment when the excitement wears off, when the reality of leadership truly sets in, what it looks like, and how to move forward so you can prepare for the leadership dip before it actually happens. Stay tuned. What's going on, aspiring school leader? I am Dr. Donovan Smalls II, educator, best-selling author, school leadership coach, and I help aspiring school leaders confidently land their first leadership role and lead with impact from day one. Today, we're talking about the leadership dip, that moment when the excitement of school leadership wears off, when the title that you have gained and you worked hard for, actually, you realize it doesn't even matter, right? It's that moment when the real work begins. And so here are 3 keys that will help you not only recognize the leadership dip, but help you to lead confidently through it. So key number 1, understand the dip before it happens. Understand the dip before you are in it. And what I mean by that is the dip, the leadership dip, is the point where excitement meets endurance. Because the best leaders are the ones that are willing to and are able to withstand that moment when excitement meets reality. You know, everybody's excited at the beginning of a school year. Everyone's excited when they first get that leadership role that they desire, whether it's an assistant principal, whether it's a dean, whether it's a supervisor, whether it is an academic coach. Everyone gets excited about September, right? Typically, if you're on the East Coast, you start school in September. If you are in the South, sometimes you might start school in August, right? Whenever you start school, you are going to experience that excitement of the title, right? Walking into that building, understanding that you're sitting in a leadership seat now. You will get excited about that. However, what happens when you experience this lull, this dip in that excitement, to where now you have to sustain yourself in terms of your why, in terms of who you are and the reason why you wanted to get into education in the first place. Those are the things that you truly need to be thinking about. So when we get into key number 1, understand the dip before you're in it. When you experience this lack of excitement, right? Sometimes you might feel stagnant in your development. Understand that it is not failure. Understand that when you get into leadership and you experience this, it doesn't mean that you should start contemplating whether you need to go back into the classroom. It's not failure. It's the moment when leadership moves from idealistic to real. Because the leadership really happens in the day-to-day. The things that people will never see, those are things that you are going to be responsible for. Supporting teachers and students at the ground level, at the base level, at the foundation, where nobody might not actually see the things. Nobody will see the things that you're actually doing. However, you cannot go into leadership because you want to get credit. You go into leadership to support other people. And that's the thing that you have to remember when you experience this lull, this reality of a lack of excitement. It doesn't mean that anything's wrong with you. It means that leadership is now getting real, right? Many new leaders mistake this for burnout, but it's actually the transition into authentic leadership growth. See, authentic leadership growth means that you start to understand you're in leadership for the right reasons, because the excitement starts to fade. You start to understand that everything is not about being on this level of adrenaline or having this level of adrenaline that's going to sustain you as a leader. No, it's in the day to day. It's in the basics that truly makes you a leader. So yes, you might start to understand, or you might start to feel like, man, it's November and I feel like I'm losing my excitement for leadership. Understand that this is natural. Understand that this is a part of leadership. It's now you're moving into the realness, the authenticity of leadership, which is, again, the day-to-day experiences. The best leaders expect challenges and prepare for them mentally, not with fear, but with focus. Because what's going to happen is sometimes you might, by November, you probably have experienced a disgruntled parent. You might have experienced, some people who might not like the decisions that you have made. You might experience some of these things, but that doesn't mean that you run from leadership. It means that you now start to focus on the things that you need to improve, how you can bridge the gap in terms of your relationships and the connections that you have, so that you can continue to improve. Because you are going to be battle tested. There are things that are going to happen when you step into leadership that may cause you to question why you stepped into leadership in the first place. But this is normal. I don't want you to think that everything is going to be fine and dandy when you step into leadership. No, some things are going to have the glitz and glamour and the excitement that you're like, man, this is exactly why I stepped into leadership. But most times you are going to be in a daily grind supporting and developing other people. And you are not going to necessarily get a pat on the back or pat on the shoulder for the things that you have done. But that's not why you got into leadership. So start to do some self-reflection and start to see that you're not necessarily, and maybe you are, but I'm going to take the posture of you're not necessarily experiencing burnout. What you are experiencing is the realness of leadership. So key number 1 was understand the dip before you're in it. Key number two, as it relates to understanding the leadership dip and how to confidently lead through it, is you want to anchor yourself in purpose, not position. Your title won't sustain you. Your purpose will. So if you got into leadership, or if you desire to get into leadership just because you want to make more money, it will show. If you're getting into leadership just because you want a title and you feel like you now can tell everyone what to do, it's going to show. The real you is going to show when you step into leadership. So what's going to happen is sometimes we think that getting into leadership is going to bring us to a new level of our humanity, but at the end of the day, it's going to expose who you truly are as a human being. So if you're someone that is selfish, it's going to be amplified when you step into a leadership role. If you're someone who is truly getting into leadership to support other people, you want to see students and teachers thrive, it's going to show when you step into leadership. Who you are is going to be magnified when you step into the leadership role. Titles can feel rewarding at first, but the excitement fades quickly when the real work begins. Again, when we talk about leadership, there's real work that needs to be done. You don't just walk around the building telling people what to do, right? There's real work. There's collaboration. There's a heavy load of responsibility that you are going to be responsible for. You're going to be responsible for making these really important decisions collectively that will drain you. And sometimes you might not even realize why you're so tired at the end of the day because you haven't physically done anything. However, it's the mental load that you carry from making most decisions. Sometimes on behalf of other people, you're making decisions on behalf of yourself. Like there are so many things, so many aspects that you have to think about. So it's that mental load that you have to prepare yourself for because you're constantly making decisions. Purpose is what keeps leaders grounded when things get hard. Because aspiring leaders, you as an aspiring leader, you're going to have to define why you're getting into leadership. What's your why? And I know we're tired of hearing you need to constantly connect to your why, but it is actually true. You're going to be tested, whether you get into some sort of conflict with a colleague, whether you're dealing with a disgruntled parent, whether you're constantly making decisions or dealing with vaping or whatever the case is, depending on the level of leadership that you step into, it's going to be a revolving door sometimes. It can feel that way, at least, regarding the problems that you are going to have to solve. But that is leadership, and you cannot run from that. So remember, your purpose is what's truly going to ground you. And that's why I truly need you to think about not chasing recognition when it comes to leadership, but stepping into the purpose that is on your life, which when it comes to leadership, that means that you are going to have to be a servant leader, supporting and developing other people. So again, number 2, our key number 2 was anchor yourself in purpose, not position. And lastly, as it relates to recognizing the leadership dip, that decrease in excitement that you are going to experience because you're now focusing and moving into the realness of leadership. Key number 3 is to develop habits that will sustain you later. You can't rise to the level of your goals. You are going to fall to the level of your habits. And I know that you've heard that before, but it's true. When you're in this lull, when you have a lack of excitement or a lack of motivation in terms of getting up every single day and putting in the real work, your habits are going to save you, not motivation. You know, motivation is going to ebb and flow. It's going to increase and decrease, but it is your purpose. It is your values. Those are the things that's going to sustain you. So build patterns of self-reflection, emotional discipline, and build those habits now. So when you step into leadership, you know what to expect. I'm a firm believer that, yes, you're not going to truly understand what it's like to be a school leader until you sit in the seat of leadership. I think we can always contemplate or pontificate about what we think leadership is going to be. We can prepare ourselves as best as we can, but until you sit in the seat of leadership, you're not going to truly understand what it's like to have a level of excitement at the beginning of the school year, but then when it comes to November, December, when you're getting into January, the new year, you might experience a lack of excitement, a lack of motivation. So what you need to do is be grounded in your purpose and start to develop those habits now as an aspiring leader. Get in the right mind frame so when you land that role, you know what to expect, so that when it actually comes, when you have this dip in motivation, you don't look at it as you need to go back to the classroom. You actually look at it as you need to be grounded in your why, in your purpose. And as much as we don't want to hear that, we're tired of hearing that, it is actually true and it will sustain you. Leadership doesn't give you new habits. It reveals the ones you've already formed. So whatever habits you're developing now as an aspiring leader, those things are going to come out when you step into leadership. The more grounded your daily routines are, the more stable you'll be when leadership pressure hits, because the pressure is coming. The decision-making fatigue, it is coming. And when you step into leadership, and if you never experienced that, I'm glad that you haven't, or I'm glad that you won't. But for the rest of us in leadership, we do experience a lack of motivation at some point, right? But again, I want you to be grounded in who you are. Start to develop those character traits that allow you to connect with your why, connect with your purpose, so that when it comes, when you feel that lull, when you feel that dip in motivation, you know that it is a natural thing that you can work through self-reflection. As an aspiring school leader, I want you to know that if you are someone that needs additional support as it relates to preparing for that first leadership role, reach out. Let's have a conversation about how we can get you ready for your first interview so that you can understand what it might entail, the questions that may be asked, because ultimately we all need support in some way. We cannot walk this leadership journey alone, nor should we, right? We should always have some sort of mentor that we can connect with so that we can become the best leaders that we can be, so we can better serve the school community that we are called to step into. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, make sure you share it with someone else. Leave a comment. What are you going to do as it relates to preparing for that leadership lull, that leadership dip, that lack of motivation that will come when you become a school leader? What are you going to do to prepare yourself now mentally so that you are ready for when it happens, so you can deal with it, you can self-reflect, you can either journal, whatever the case is, so you can be the best leader that you could possibly be for the students that you serve. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always, I hope you have a great week of teaching, leading, and learning. Take care.